All right, gentlemen.
Yeah.
We have some people here. We are doing a podcast discussion. I tried to think of a clever name for this before coming, and literally all I could think of was like LXF for
What does that
our
mean?
for our server name, like our clan name, Legio X Fulminata LXF. Um, but honestly, that's also just like super nerdy, so I'm not gonna title anything. But
Nice. It's edgy. Let's go.
but
The
we are
fulmination.
yeah, we are going to be discussing basically just the general topic of Memphis. Memphis is the location city, but we're talking about the general topic of music tourism, and just tourism and the history of Memphis and how those things relate to one another. So basically, I'm going to be asking a few just like general questions. I only have like 5 right here. I'll probably think of a few as we go. I have a few facts that I'll throw out every now and again. But what I'm really wanting to hear as people who live in Memphis, lived in Memphis, or live outside of Memphis and just know of Memphis, just like your general knowledge and thoughts on like the tourism and that kind of thing. Okay. Any opening remarks, gentlemen? Solid. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so question 1. What do you know about the history of music or recording studios in relationship to Memphis?
I only know my family's history with it, so other than that, not too much.
Oh, you want to elaborate about that a little bit?
Um, sure, why not? My grandfather during the 1950s, 60s, and into the 70s was a country musician who recorded and played through the local radio station in the middle of Memphis.
Oh, okay, cool. Do you remember like the recording studio or the radio station name?
If you give me a second, actually, I can actually find it.
Yeah, I mean definitely. Okay. Anybody else?
Pretty much the only thing I know about like recording studios in Memphis is of course Sun Studios, which I think is where Elvis and Johnny Cash recorded.
Mhm.
And I know you can take tours, but I personally have never been inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, never been inside.
I actually got the opportunity to tour it in high school. It was part of my choir. We actually recorded a song in our 8th grade. We won regionals in our choir district kind of deal, and because of that, they took us on a field trip to record one of our songs in the actual same studio that is it the Million Dollar Quartet performed in, as well as Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash and all them. So yeah, that's the only time I've toured it though, in the whole time I've lived here. Taylor.
Yeah, no, my first job was as a tour guide at Graceland. And in addition to that, I've been inside some studios for tours more than is probably healthy.
Okay. So as working in Graceland, you probably have like an insight on the kind of people that show up there, the kind of thing that draws people in to see Graceland, aside from the fact that it's being Elvis Presley's house. Do you have anything that's like interesting about that, or like that you found surprising working there?
So when I first started working there, I didn't know what kind of scope Elvis had. His music is a phenomenon across the world, and it's not always that it's like because it's been ingrained in my life since before I was born, been ingrained in my parents' lives, and yet it's a new phenomenon for some people. I mean, there are people who have come from Europe, from Asia, who have always dreamed of coming here. There are people who found out about Elvis and decided that they were going to come the very same year. So it's interesting, all the different people you meet, and all the different places that you find out about, to the point where we had a selection screen on the iPads that we used for the tours of languages, and it filled the entire screen, and it was never enough.
Wow.
There were still more people that we didn't have enough software we didn't have the languages to help them, unfortunately, but they still enjoyed the tour from what I can tell.
Yeah, and that's honestly one of the surprising things. Like, I guess it's about just Memphis in general. The amount of people that just the name Elvis Presley can pull in, and like you're saying, some people are like just discovering it now. New generations that haven't heard it before. Their parents play it, and they're like, "Oh, who's that? That's a really good song." and you know, it's a place that they can visit, and actually, like, you know, it represents the person who sang the song. The question 2, so these two are kind of related. A lot of these are related, but so do you know how Memphis came to be called the home of the blues and soul music?
Guessing because there was a lot of blues and soul musicians here.
It's a really good guess, Jake. You know, that's a pretty solid guess.
I'm just going for my limited educated guess.
And I mean by that, do you know, like, necessarily the history of, like, how it started, how it developed into what is now known as the city of the blues and soul music?
Not really, no.
So originally we're gonna talk about Beale Street. So Beale Street was actually built in 1841, and it was named after a forgotten military hero that Robertson Top. He was the person who built the street, named that soldier, or named the street after that forgotten soldier. So ever since then, it became a trading center for ships along the Mississippi River. So it used to be like trade shops. So like tackle or just shipping, food and stuff like that. And that's how Beale Street really developed. So from there, around 1860, it became the home of many traveling black musicians who would street perform, who would perform in the streets. And they would have all ranges of music and stuff, and they became like really popular and really famous for the people that traveled along the Mississippi River. So then in 1977, because of the history of musicians playing on that street, and this entire time musicians have kept up that tradition, it became the official home of the blues, and that was how the style was developed, where these black African American musicians playing on these streets and not really having overly formal training and just developing their own sound. And of course, when the radio was invented, and I can't remember the year, but basically that was what really blew it up around Memphis, was that the radio stations were able to play this music, and it became a unique sound of Memphis. And one of the main things that drew people into Beale Street specifically was the blues sound. So then from there, you obviously get the tradition of Beale Street, of Music Fest, Beale Street Music Fest. So the Beale Street Music Fest was actually first performed in, I believe it was 1980. It was like 1987 was the first one. And no, it was 1981. And ever since then, it slowly just gained in popularity. In its original context, Beale Street Music Festival was a international festival. It was just supposed to represent artists and just musicians from around the world, and it was supposed to be a cultural festival. And now that's just like one section of the entire month, and now we get like 3 sections of that has become Memphis in May. And you know, one week is the Beale Street Music Fest, another is the national barbecue cooking competition, and then there's another part that is the international music festival and cultural festival. And so just in 2017 alone, and I haven't, there were actually, it was difficult to find any numbers that were sooner, but this was the record-breaking year. In 2017, Beale Street had an annual number of 5 million tourists, and they raked in the record-breaking gross revenue of $4.96 million during the Beale Street Music Festival alone. So that was just the 1 month of so that. Then the next question, do you know any overall history of tourist attractions in Memphis? I just mentioned Beale Street and Beale Street Music Fest, but we have actually quite a few different tourist attractions, which we mentioned some Sun Studios, Graceland, but they're not the only ones. So do you know any history about those, or how they came to be, what they are now, what their original purpose might have been, how were they developed into an iconic and cultural location in Memphis, and that kind of thing?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is, of course, the Memphis Pyramid, which used to, I believe it was built for the Memphis Grizzlies.
It was an arena space, or
yeah, it was an arena for the Memphis Grizzlies, but then they decided to go with the FedEx Forum instead, and so that kind of just sat there as a museum for a while, I think, until Bass Pro came in a couple years ago.
It did used to. Basically, the only thing that I knew that ever was in there was other, the Barnum and Bailey circus would come through every once in a while, but then even they stopped coming, so it was really just kind of sitting there empty, from what I know.
Yeah.
It got used as for concerts a few times, but not enough to keep it from becoming a Bass Pro Shop.
That was actually one of the tourist attractions that I wrote about and researched. So it was built in 1991, and it was a 20,142 seat arena that was supposed to be playing on the namesake of Memphis, the Egyptian namesake. And it was considered the 10th tallest pyramid in the world. Like we were saying, it was never regularly used. It used every now and again for sports or entertainment since about 2004 when it officially opened. And then, like we said, it left empty. They were trying to figure out what to do with it. And Bass Pro eventually bought it, and I believe it was 2011 or 2012 after an agreement with the city of Memphis. And it reopened in 2015 as a Bass Pro Megastore, which I don't know if all of y'all know that it includes this, because I didn't know it included all of this. It includes a hotel, bowling alley, archery range, a restaurant at the top, along with the outdoor observation deck. I didn't know about the hotel or the archery range. That blows my mind,
That's
actually.
That second level. If you
Yeah,
look
I
at the street
remember
cabins,
Yeah.
those are actual rooms.
The one time I've been, I honestly, we went in, we looked around on the first floor, and then we went straight to the elevator and went to the observation deck. But yeah, I really want to go back and actually like explore around, because like I would have so much fun at the archery range. Honestly, I would have too much fun. And even that, you can argue that it's been taken up with the tallest freestanding elevator in the world.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know it was freestanding, and apparently it is.
It sure is. It is. It's basically just a tower in the middle.
Yeah.
That's very comforting.
Right? And and it doesn't mention it, but and it's completely glass. It is 100% glass. You can see through it when you're going up. You can see below you, and the observation decks are glass as well when you go out there, which I think is just crazy. And it baffles my mind that we've gotten to a point where we can make freaking glass so sturdy and so see-through.
It's over 300 feet tall.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Honestly, when I think of the word superstore, the Bass Pro is one of the first things that comes to mind.
Oh yeah.
So do you guys know anything about the ordeal / hassle that Bass Pro actually had to go through to buy the pyramid?
Other than the protests that I was mentioning, because it wasn't just about the sign. There were a lot of people who didn't want Bass Pro moving in at all, and all sorts of. I know that there were protests, but other than that, that's about all I know.
So a lot of people protested, like you said, but a lot of people didn't understand the value or benefit that they were actually getting out of it. So not only did Bass Pro buy the store or the pyramid from the city of Memphis, they also signed a 55-year lease with the city of Memphis that also agreed to a redevelopment plan to revitalize the Pinch District, which is the city district and neighborhood east of the pyramid. So basically, a certain percentage of the income that the city of Memphis will be making from the Bass Pro is getting invested into the neighborhood and the city right next to the pyramid that most of the protests were coming from. And so this is like a example of the city of Memphis actually using its tourism to benefit its city again, and to help revitalize the downtown parts and the parts that have been left to kind of, break down over time.
I did want to add on to what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I've been attending physical therapy for my back injury.
Yeah.
And it's my therapist is located on Front Street. It's right there on Front Street.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to see the construction that's been going on there, and having been through that area all my life, to see the changes that are happening over there. It's gone from a place that I wouldn't want to walk alone necessarily. It looks like that. I'm not saying it's that bad,
Yeah.
but it did look like that. And it's now to the point where one of the nicer buildings, which is where my therapist is now almost run down in comparison.
All right.
And there's even one building that is undergoing construction, and
Ow.
also being. Oh, you okay?
I just hit my foot.
Oh. but it's in the middle of being converted into a newer structure, but it's still being used. So it's this nice mesh. On one half of the building is this new architecture, almost the minimalistic architecture, and then it's melded straight with like the stone brick that's been there for decades.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, we can throw out numbers all day long, and you'll never really gain an appreciation
Right.
until you're right there in it. And you know, the light days at Graceland, I'll be sitting there and I'm looking at, 2 to 3 to 4 to 500 people from all over the world who are sitting there sweating just because they want to see one person's house. And it's, you in Memphis, you kind of hear about these places all the time. Sun Records, Stax, the Metal Museum, Lorraine Hotel.
I forgot about Stax.
You hear about these things just all the time, and you think, yeah, it's a place. But for some people, these are legendary places that they would save up all their life just to go there once. And we live right here, and it's so hard to appreciate what we have in the city when you're not in the middle of it and experiencing it alongside people who have always wanted to be here.
I think one of the prime examples of that specifically is the Memphis Zoo. I don't think people realize that we have like a top ranking zoo in our city.
It's on every list.
Yeah, and it's like even if you just freaking go, you realize just how nice of a zoo it is. And I've probably honestly I've been to the zoo more than I've been to any, I would say, tourist attraction in Memphis. I think people really take that for granted when considering, because we the two zoos I've ever been to was the Memphis Zoo and then the zoo in St. Louis. And the St. Louis Zoo is the number one in the U.S.
St. Louis is their zoo is awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that people definitely take for granted living in Memphis. I was going to say, Taylor, that question actually kind of relates to the question I was just about to ask. I was going to ask, as a citizen of Memphis or as a tourist or as someone who used to live in Memphis, what do you know about Memphis that makes it such a tourist spot? And it's like, what are some of the questions that you hear? What are things that it's like when you're outside of Memphis and people talk about Memphis? What are the like main tourist attractions? Are like, oh yeah, Graceland, or that pyramid, that big brass pro shop, like what are some of the things you hear about that?
And my friends, we kind of stopped and they're like, man, Eric, you were in Memphis. Did you ever go to Graceland? And I have to sadly say no. I've never been to Graceland in all my life.
So
Taylor shooting me daggers.
You're not alone.
I think
it's about Graceland.
I was gonna say, I think it's safe to say that actually probably I'd say 60% of people that live in Memphis haven't been to Graceland.
Easily.
They may have driven by, they may have seen it, but I doubt they've gone to it.
I've never been to Graceland my entire life. I think Elvis is all right, but he was never one of like my favorite musicians.
Yeah.
The only time we ever went to the Graceland area, we would literally shove all 7 of our family into our '97 GMC Suburban.
Nice.
And go to the Graceland area because that was where the nearest Krispy Kreme was.
Yeah.
I was. It's funny.
Up until they built the one up on stage.
Doing research on Graceland, the Krispy Kreme was mentioned actually, and it was like because Graceland has opened up a hotel, kind of like resort area now, and it's like it's opened up. A lot of businesses have opened up around Graceland, like small little boutiques and stuff like that. That are like really niche and specialized and just like random stuff, because the business in Graceland has brought in so many just like different people, and so the Krispy Kremes has like gotten really popular, and I know that they've opened up. I know Graceland has actually like expanded in, I think it was 2015, or they reopened in 2015 after doing some expansions. They have like a freaking like plaza now and their own like stores and stuff.
Yeah, they do.
But yeah, what were we talking about? We were just talking about stuff in general. We got onto a Graceland tangent.
People who have moved out of the Memphis area.
Yeah.
Something about that.
And so they asked you about Graceland. Yeah. So you continue with your story, Ari.
Oh, this just everyone that I meet kind of wants to go to Graceland for some reason. I suppose it's because it's part of music history, and how much of it is just music history, how much Elvis was music history.
Yeah.
But even people that I see up here in Nashville really want to go to Memphis just to see what I suppose to them is the home of blues music,
Yeah.
and want to experience the culture here around that kind of music.
Well, and you know, it's funny because it's like it probably relates to the history of Memphis in general, and so it's like when they think of blues and souls, the king of blues, obviously they're gonna be like, yeah, we want to go there because like that's what it's known for. So yeah, I totally get that. What about you, Edward?
Ed boy.
No, pretty much the same as Ari. It's just, you know, that I was asking about Graceland. Like, have you been there? Have you gone there? And I'm like, honestly, I don't even know where Graceland is.
You can. I was just about to.
couldn't
I was
even
gonna say that
drive you
too.
there.
I was gonna say that was what I forgot. I was like, when Jake mentioned the Graceland area, I was like, I'll be honest, I don't even know where that is.
that?
Yeah, where is
Yeah,
the Graceland
I
area?
honestly don't remember where
Oh
the-
no!
where it
Oh
is.
boy. The Graceland area is actually in a part of town called Whitehaven.
Oh, I know
or
where that
out
is.
That way, yeah, and it's on Elvis Presley Boulevard. You
Yeah.
have to drive all the way out of town to get there. It's
Yeah.
it's on the outskirts.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It is like how many acres? It's a 500-acre farm, so that makes sense. It'd be kind of hard to have that in the city. But
I just learned that it was a farm. So
it was originally a farm. I that was the other thing that I wrote about. It was originally a farm owned by the Moore family, and then Elvis Presley, at the age of 22, by the way, bought it for just over $100,000. 500 acres of land,
Yep.
which is
but it-
crazy.
I
And
didn't realize
He also
had that money that young.
he bought
yeah.
it only after his first year of being famous too. So that's the money he got in that first
Oh.
year of popularity. But
And
it
it-
was after him doing several record-breaking live performances and golden records. Was Elvis Presley came in and he asked what little money he had in his pocket. He asked to record a song, and it was a song he had written. And I can't remember the name of the song, but it was his first song that he wrote, and I think it was at the age of 16. And he came in, recorded it, and the person who recorded it talked to the man who ran Stax. At this time, Stax Record was right next to Sun Studios, and they were connected. So Sun Studios would be where you recorded, Stax Records would be a place that sold records and sold music. I think it was also a broadcasting station at one point. So Elvis Presley came in, recorded music, and the person who recorded the music for Elvis Presley got a hold of it, and he talked to the person who ran Stax, and he's like, man, you got to listen to this. You got to listen to this kid. And I think they got his name, but they couldn't find him. It was a year later that he came back in and recorded a different song, and that was when they were like, listen, man, do you have anything else? Can you perform anything else? And then it took him I think a little while longer to develop an album. I think it was like that summer of 17, 18. And then he recorded his first album, and that made him go uber famous. And then from there, he recorded at Sun Studio and then recorded nationwide and that kind of thing. So that was how he developed and started, was at Sun Studios, and that's how they're connected.
The
yeah.
first song that he recorded was "My Happiness."
That's what it is. Just on a quick question, Taylor. Give me 1 second to go back down. Since you worked there, and I remember you mentioning you had like several hundred people during a day, and from all around the world and stuff. What would be your estimate of the highest at the height of the travel season? How many people do you think visit Graceland in one day, or the most visits on average?
I think our highest day during my time there, I think we had, it must have been, I think it was over 3,000 people.
4,000
Come through
people
there.
per day.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Per day, and
And-
that's the month of July. For the entire month, it's an average of 4,000 people per day.
Oh,
Yeah, no, that sounds right, and it's crazy.
And do you guys just a reminder? Do you guys remember the rough estimate, or not the estimate, but the number that Beale Street Music Fest makes in that 1 month?
The amount of people?
No. The amount of money. So Beale Street Music Fest brings in about 4 million people, 4 million tourists the whole month, but it only makes about 4.96 million the music festival itself.
Yeah.
Guess how much money that the Graceland, just in tourism alone, brings to the city of Memphis?
Too much.
18 million? No, it's gotta be more.
150 million
Yeah,
per
way
year.
Oh
I-
my
Per
God.
year.
Oh, for the year, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
And yeah, I mean, and it's amazing that Beale Street does that in a month, but like an overarching year, 150 million, and that's not just at Graceland alone. It's like the businesses around it, bringing people into Memphis, and I mean, if you think about all these tourist attractions acting in one, you know, it just takes one to pull people in, and then we have 4 or 5 that they can go visit, and you know, it develops more income for the city. So now there's even more. These are all statistics from like 2017, 2016. So the numbers have even gone up probably from then, and new development is happening and stuff like that. But these are just the rough estimates from some of this stuff, which is just, it's mind blowing. As like we've lived in this city majority of our lives, if not all of it so far, and we know like little about its main like business, which is tourism. And it's you know, it's one of the things that like we hear about, you know, FedEx being one of the primary businesses in Memphis. But like in reality, that's for people who live in Memphis, to be fair, like getting work and stuff like that, working at FedEx, that did hire a lot of people, but the tourism aspect for the entire city brings in so much more income. It's ridiculous. And I just think it's fascinating that like I've never known this information, and coming into it with the mindset of tourism, I feel like hurt the city as opposed to really helping it. It's surprising just the amount that it really does help and seems to help. All right, last question. Now that you have a few figures and a few numbers of some of the tourist attractions, I know it's only been 2. I didn't do a whole lot of like money research, but these were like some of the biggest numbers that the city of Memphis racks in. How would you use this income that tourism brings in to benefit the city and provide a potential or greater investment for the city long term?
Infrastructure.
Okay, what do you
Potholes on Poplar.
Potholes on Poplar.
potholes? All
Memphis
right.
has to get a cut from all the tourism,
Mhm.
even if it's just Graceland and other things, and the pyramid. I wonder if there's a statistic out there on how much of that gets fed right back into the education system of Memphis.
That's an interesting aspect, especially like the education system. But it's also, you got to think about some of these tourist attractions aren't actually owned by Memphis. They just participate here, like Bass Pro. The only reason that Memphis is getting money out of Bass Pro is because Bass Pro signed a deal, and it's part of a 55-year lease. So that's gonna be going for a while. Beale Street Music Fest is owned by Memphis technically, but the 3 separate festivals all are independently funded, and they have to pay for themselves. They have to make more money. They've got to be able to bring in people and bring in money, and so it'd be interesting to see how much money they actually benefit from that. Like how much goes into the black. That's what it's called. How much of it goes into the black, and how much of it doesn't, or if there are ever times where it doesn't reach it.
And it's at least is I can speak on Graceland. I can't speak so much for Sun. Or Bass. But as far as Graceland goes, the income from all the I think can split a lot. Does go back into a bus line that runs.
Memphis that will come and visit and educate and teach at this academy for at-risk youths, which is super cool. But yeah. All right, gentlemen. Any closing remarks? How do we? Yes.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how do we feel a little bit more educated? How do we feel about just tourism in general, and just any leaving thoughts?
I just want to say thank you for teaching me stuff. This is a topic that I feel like of anybody, I almost felt like I was like, oh, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna have all these things that I could say, but I learned so much. It just shows that I know nothing.
Man,
I think I know stuff. I know nothing.
See, the only thing I knew about Memphis was Memphis in May, and I lived there for 18 years.
Right, and that's the thing that happened while I was researching this stuff, man. Is like that's why I changed my argument. It's like not only could I not find any evidence for my argument, but all this other evidence pointing the other direction, and I honestly found that more interesting. And it's just surprising because again, we've lived here our entire, if not majority, of our lives, and it's just this information just wasn't known to us, and I feel like it should be taught a little bit more. And I think people do a fantastic job of teaching it as it is, because I mean, a lot of schools obviously use these as tourist attractions as field trips, and like education facilities. But I wish there was almost like a higher level of research and study that you could go into in like high school or middle school when you have more of an understanding. Because I definitely would have taken one of those classes or field trips in high school if I knew that it was like I was learning the more of the development and the history behind Memphis and not just going to a museum,
Yeah.
I wish I could have had opportunities just to sit down and talk like this about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, man.
Never had been able to do it.
And that's why I wanted to include people, is because like when multimedia projects were approached and podcast was an option, I was like, well, I know a lot of us, a lot of this group either listen to audiobooks, listen to podcasts, listen to some form of like information of just like sitting down and talking. And I know we've always had like really great conversations, just like discussions. So I really wanted to sit down and like be able to lead one, I get to be a DM for once, huh?
Oh my God.
And let me say you did a great job, which means you can take over next time I take a break.
That's a lie. Anyways, all right. Well, thank you guys for participating. I'm just glad we were able to actually get everything, get everyone here and get it situated. I know it's a little bit late, and it's not everyone that I wish was able to join, but it's fine. We were able to. We did plenty. We did plenty with everyone here, and it was really fun talking to you guys.
Absolutely, and thank you, Bradley, for building this whole place for us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, weren't able to make
the boy who built this and couldn't make
for
it.
For the people, for anybody actually watching and not just listening, we are on a Minecraft server right now, just because I wanted to give you guys something to at least watch during this conversation, and I didn't there wasn't a whole lot of interaction going on in the Minecraft server, to be honest. But it's the thought that counts, and I had a friend built this for us, and that was really awesome, really sweet. All right, guys. Thank you guys once again, and hopefully we can do this again sometime. This was fun.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, and good night.